Discover the incredible moment when a poor waitress's amazing tango exposed a millionaire's heart. Maria gazed across the street at the new restaurant's grand opening, a whirl of lights and laughter flooding out into the bustling night. Her heart raced, not from the excitement of the evening, but from the knowing reality of her life. Each shift at the diner meant late hours, aching feet, and aching dreams. But every dollar she earned fed her single mother and 3 younger siblings snugly huddled in their modest apartment. The high society, clinking glasses, exuding wealth, seemed like a distant galaxy, while her world was tethered to the ground, a world of responsibilities, obligations, and sacrifice. As the clock neared 10, whispers of a talent showcase echoed from the restaurant's luxurious interior. Maria tightened her apron, a mix of hope and anxiety knotting her stomach. Fear lingered in her mind. The thought of crashing a place reserved for the elite froze her limbs. Yet the insistent desire for recognition danced just as fervently within her. What if tonight was different? What if fate had a seat at the bar with her name on it? The heart-stopping notion of achieving everything she longed for, financial stability and a career in dance, all swirled like the vibrant music that beckoned her daring spirit. The moment she stepped into the extravagance of the upscale restaurant, she was overwhelmed with sensations. The opulence, the chatter, the scent of gourmet dishes wafting around her. They were worlds apart. Her life was colored in grit and sacrifice, while here everything was polished perfection. "I can't belong here," she muttered, shaking her head. Yet, with raw determination, she pushed further in, yearning to stain this pristine affair with her authentic spirit. Before she could reconsider, laughter erupted around her, a gathering eager for an unexpected performance. Maria hesitated, feeling like an intruder in their exclusive realm, yet the yearning in her heart surged. The blazing lights felt almost trapped against her skin, igniting her spirit. "It's now or never," she whispered to herself, the trembling hands gripping her apron, daring to release their hold on fear. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. In that unfortunate moment, when music seemed to beckon like a friend, without a second thought, she stepped in. As she felt the rhythm pulse through her veins, the floodgates opened. She moved, arms soaring, feet tapping. Everything felt alive. Eyes around her widened. Even Daniel's, a billionaire cocooned in a world of expectations, who found himself captivated by this stranger's unapologetic passion, a raw embodiment of the dreams he'd almost forgotten in his privileged cage. Yet, amid his admiration, Daniel wrestled with unease. Here, in the glint of dance and the whispers of a sobering truth, he faced the chasm that separated them. A woman like her, unpolished, vibrant, dared to wrench his heart from its stalwart place.
Could their worlds really collide, or would they remain untouchable fates that yearned for connection across an insurmountable divide? Just then, a heavy-set guest stumbled out, his words dripping with judgment, threatening the moment. Maria felt a cold terror settle deep in her stomach. Her dreams teetered on the edge, dangling over a precipice. "We come from two different worlds, Daniel," she whispered, a cascade of emotions breaking her voice just as footsteps echoed ominously from the restaurant entrance. Someone was about to uncover a secret that could change everything. Maria's breath caught as the door swung open, and the laughter of the room faded into silence. A figure emerged into the glow of the restaurant's lights, a tall man, draped in an impeccably tailored suit. With his sharp features and piercing gaze, he seemed a living embodiment of the exclusivity that Maria felt suffocating in its grip. She forced herself to remain still as dread coiled around her heart. "What's going on here?" the man asked, his voice gravelly yet commanding, as he assessed the scene before him. Appalled gazes, gaping mouths, and Maria embodying raw vulnerability at the center. "Nothing, just a dance," Daniel interjected, stepping forward, protective, almost possessive. Maria's heart raced at the implication of his defense. Did he truly understand the risk she was taking, or was he simply taking pity on her? "Just a dance?" the man scoffed, the sarcasm laden in his tone. "This is a place for professionals, not whatever this is." The weight of his words hung heavily, leaving an acrid taste in her mouth. Doubt of her worth, of the passion that flared within her. Painfully aware of herself, Maria felt the weight of every patron's gaze, a pressure that threatened to crush her spirit. But in that split second, as she wavered between retreating into the shadows or embracing her moment, defiance ignited within her. The fear of failure surged against the drive to assert her existence. "I'm just claiming my space," she snapped, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'm not here for their approval. I'm here for my own." With that affirmation, she pushed back against the tight constraints around her heart. This was no idle fancy. This was a declaration. The suited man raised an eyebrow, taken aback by her unexpected fire. As whispers of curiosity rippled through the crowd, Maria seized the moment.
While Daniel seemed ready to engage in a heated discussion with the man, she broke from them, moving to claim the spotlight once more. The music returned, a soaring melody reminiscent of freedom, and she let it wash over her like a tidal wave. With each beat, she danced not just for the eyes that watched her, but for the fire in her heart and the hope of a future beyond her current existence. She unleashed her emotions through every movement, interpreting her struggles, her fears, and ultimately her dreams. While Maria twirled and dashed across the polished floor, she caught glimpses of Daniel, his expression shifting from admiration to something deeper, concern mixed with pride. Each spin of her body turned not only towards him, but toward her aspirations, acknowledging the gap she yearned to bridge. Could they traverse it together in the face of such glaring differences? Yet, as delightful applause began to swell, the heavy-set man's initial ridicule morphed into a skeptical frown. "Art is nice," he spat, "but it pays little. You should know your place." His dismissal hovered like a dark cloud, casting a shadow over her vibrant moment. Maria faltered for just a flicker, the reminder of her reality crashing back in. The layers of judgment and financial insecurity loomed larger than her dramatic dance. Doubts crept in, but as the rhythm coursed through her veins, she took a deep breath, determined not to let negativity dictate her story. What if she could prove him wrong? What if talent could transcend the boundaries of status? She wouldn't let this chance slip through her fingers, not tonight. She was committed to her truth, and suddenly everything snapped into focus. It wasn't merely about captivating the wealthy audience or winning their approval. It was about igniting her own potential, elevating her life from the burdensome trenches she inhabited for so long. But in the depths of her conviction, the reality of Daniel's world loomed, a world laden with expectations. Even as the applause enveloped her and the fleeting thrill of the spotlight coursed through her veins, Maria's heart ached with uncertainty. Would he stand alongside her as they journeyed further into this unknown territory? Crossing that line would mean not just transformation for her, but also for him. There hung a question, heavy and unspoken. Wasn't it time to confront the truth? Amid the thrumming exhilaration and the brewing storm of doubt, Maria questioned everything. Could she truly forge a new path, and would the man captivated by her dance be willing to break free from his gilded cage? The weight of the moment hovered, and Maria found herself standing at a crucial crossroad, filled with both promise and peril. "Tonight will define everything," she murmured, feeling both fear and hope surge within her as the restaurant buzzed with newfound energy. The taste of potential was sweet, yet the impending reality loomed large.
Her early morning routines became un santuario where she rehearsed not just dance forms, but the very essence of her aspirations. Each pirouette spun outwards into her ambitions. She sought out videos of professional dancers online, absorbing their techniques and conviction, mirroring their strength in her movements. Maria was not merely training her body, she was fortifying her spirit. Meanwhile, the tentative bond she forged with Daniel felt like an overgrown path, beautiful yet thorny. She hesitated to pull him into her reality, fearing the raw authenticity of her struggles might suffocate any flicker of connection between them. He was already unearthing parts of her long buried beneath layers of pretense, but did he truly understand the long game? The dance of navigating their differences had only begun, and with every interaction, Maria sensed the stakes escalating. "Let's meet at the studio tomorrow," she texted Daniel that evening, an undercurrent of nervous excitement threading through her as she waited impatiently for his response. The next day arrived ripe with uncertainty. Standing in the empty studio, she marveled at the polished floor reflecting the bright overhead lights. The air buzzed with latent potential, yet her gut twisted with the prospect of revealing her world. When he walked in, breathless and slightly disheveled, Maria was struck anew by the contrast between them. His casual way of entering her realm filled her with trepidation, but this was their agreement, a step into the uncharted. "Wow!" he exclaimed, taking in the wide open space. "This is incredible! What should we start with?" Something flashed in his eyes that ignited her purpose. "We'll begin with a dance duet," she stated, the words tumbling from her lips with surprising conviction. "It's intimate, requires trust." Trust? Almost a whisper, Daniel tilted his head. Considering the weight of her proposition, It was curious, yet alluring, to see him grappling with concepts he had never had to navigate before. As they moved together, the cadence of their bodies intertwining ignited something wild within her. She taught him the basics, guiding his clumsy steps into the rhythm of her world. Laughter punctured the serious air, the way laughter does when it disarms vulnerability. Yet, in those moments, she felt a simmering protection over her secret aspirations. The echoes of her self-doubt whispered warnings, a reminder of the fragility of hope. Then came the moment of truth. As they danced, Daniel lost his footing and stumbled into her space, hands firm on her waist. Instinctively, Maria's body responded, anchoring him in the moment. It was as if time had paused, vulnerability laid bare between them. She felt the weight of his gaze. He was learning her not just as a dancer, but as a dreamer. And that startled her. "Maria," he started, eyes searching, "you're extraordinary. Why would you hide this talent? Why stay in the background?"
Her breath caught, faced con una pergunta che cut deeper do che she had anticipato. Those walls she had built around her vulnerabilities threatened to crack, exposing fears she had kept at bay. "I'm scared," she admitted, the honesty stinging with its rawness. "Scared to dream too bold and fall flat. Scared to share the reality that is so much harder than putting on a show." "What if I fall too?" he replied, not backing away from her discomfort. "What if we both stumble?" As their lives intertwined more through movement, they both had to face the rising tension in unveiling their truths. She stood at the precipice of a decision. Could she trust him to wander into the grit and glamour of her world without losing herself? "Then, together, we'll learn to rise," she murmured, feeling the barely contained tremor of hopelessness gradually transform into the thrill of possibility. Behind her uncertainty lay a horizon governed by courage. As they stepped into this newfound dance of partnership between actions and emotions, Maria sensed the culmination of her journey was only beginning. What would they uncover together? Would the perseverance of their newfound bond lead them beyond just dreams, or expose their deepest fears? The spectrum of their connection had just begun to reveal itself, and the next steps would determine the essence of their unfolding narrative. The following week cascaded into a blur filled with persistent reflections and challenges that felt both exhilarating and daunting. Each morning in the studio became an extension of Maria's sacred rituals, her routines fueled by an unquenchable thirst for self-discovery. The polished floors transformed into mirrors of her aspirations, reflecting both her potential and her trepidations. As she and Daniel continued their rehearsals, intimacy grew between them, woven into the very fabric of shared movement. Yet beneath the laughter and the rhythm, Maria wrestled with her fears, battling the paradox of vulnerability. Daniel's presence in her world illuminated the shadows she had diligently sewn into her tapestry of existence. His curiosity pushed her to confront her apprehensions, yet each day left her questioning. Could she remain unwavering amidst the upheaval? One afternoon, as they focused on a particularly difficult sequence, Daniel lost himself in the moment, his eyes alight with determination. Their bodies barely touched, her arm guiding him, his breath in synchronicity with hers.
But when the music faded, a heavy silence enveloped them, and Maria's pulse raced in anticipation. "Let's try the lifts again," she suggested, the idea of scale both thrilling and terrifying. She wondered if he fathomed the depth of what such a feat represented. Yet there was a spark, an almost electric current that ran between them, pushing her to unlock new heights she had never dared approach. "All right, but you know I trust you, right?" he replied, a hint of hesitation muted beneath his confident facade.
Maria's heart fluttered not only from his words, but from the implications behind them. Trust was a delicate dance, and even as they practiced lifting each other, she sensed the greater burden of sharing her reality was looming. When it came time for their first actual attempt at a lift, an undercurrent of doubt seeped into her confidence, and she hesitated. For a fleeting moment, the idea of falling overwhelmed her, physically as well as metaphorically. Instead of the joy of flying, visions of collapsing under the weight of expectations flooded her mind. "Breathe, Maria," she whispered to herself, trying to dispel the anxiety. But should she let herself fall, trusting Daniel to catch her? The competing emotions of fear and excitement waged a war within her, one that she felt might determine the course of their journey. "Let's take it slow," he encouraged, his voice breaking through the whirlwind of her thoughts. "We're in this together." With aligned heartbeats, they attempted again. Maria leaped into the frame of trust she had almost dared to create. Daniel caught her, cradling her waist firmly as he lifted her off the ground. She felt a rush as the world tilted, and for one splendid moment the ground fell away beneath her. As she descended, the exhilaration transformed into clarity. Cradled in the strength of his arms, she glimpsed a realm beyond her fears. A world where embracing risk could lead to greater rewards. Yet, as they met back on the ground, that newfound clarity turned hazy once more, tangled in self-doubt. What if this closeness opened her to vulnerability beyond her control? "See?" Daniel smiled, breathing hard, yet radiating a sense of triumph. "You're phenomenal. We can build something beautiful together." "Beautiful," she echoed, yet the word felt hollow. What was beauty without honesty? She yearned to expose every nuance of her struggles, the pain, the grit, the soul that often went unseen. And still, the unspoken fear of rejection whispered harshly in her ear, challenging her audacity to share the depths of her reality. "Daniel, She hesitated, words hovering on her lips, eager to spill out the chaos within. But which fragments of her story to share? "Let's also focus on your narratives," he suggested, noting her reluctance. "This is as much about vulnerability as it is about the dance." A flicker of warmth ignited within her. Perhaps, amidst her battles, was the courage to reveal the very fractures that made her whole. Could he grasp the full scope of her existence without faltering? "Tomorrow," she resolved, her voice steadied with new conviction. "Tomorrow I will show you my world." Maria felt the pressure of her admission swell, punctuated with a surge of potential. Suddenly aware of the walls she had built around her dreams.
While she craved connection, she began to acknowledge that exposing those truths required more than mere trust. It demanded a leap of faith.
The answer awaited as she faced those crossroads of her journey. The air in a studio as stagnant, the weight of Maria's thoughts pressing heavily against her chest. Those words, "something waiting for me," echoed in her mind, amplifying her sense of urgency. She had never been one to shy away from challenges, but this felt different. A catalyst poised to jeopardize everything she had fought to build. Daniel's expression shifted as he observed her struggle, his eyes searching for clarity. "What do you mean?" he inquired, cautious yet inquisitive. His voice offered a lifeline amidst her swirling doubts. Maria's fingers danced nervously against her thighs as she contemplated her next words. "I received a message last night. It's from an old contact. It might drag up parts of my past I'd prefer to keep buried." The breath she took was shaky, a tremor of vulnerability pulsing through her. "I don't know if I can handle that now, not with everything changing." He stepped closer, concern shadowing his features. "You don't have to face it alone. If it's something significant to you, we can tackle it together, just like the dance." His words sparked a flicker of hope within her, but also stirred the familiar cocktail of fear and uncertainty. Could she truly blend her life with Daniel's world, where wealth loomed large over her humble origins? The two lives seemed incompatible, crisscrossing paths that, like two opposing forces, could collide in chaos. With a steadiness she was surprised to find, Maria took a deep breath, anchoring herself to the moment. "It's not just about me anymore. I don't want to bring my past into this. What if it changes how you see me?" The tremor in her voice belied a deeper struggle. She had always put her ambitions above personal connections, and here she was, at a precipice of emotional connection against the shield she had built around herself. Daniel regarded her, his gaze unwavering. "You're stronger than you think, Maria. Your past is part of who you are. The raw honesty of it is what draws people to you. You're captivating because you're real." The intensity in his voice stirred a yearning within her, teasing the edges of her wall of self-doubt. "Maybe," Maria whispered, her resolve wavering under the dual weight of fear and desire. She closed her eyes and envisioned the old contact's message, a potential opportunity, but also a threat to the burgeoning relationship she valued so deeply. The light in her life had dimmed when she chose to leave that past behind, but the prospect of rediscovery tinged her heart with reluctance. Suddenly, a thought struck her, a realization that traveled like a current through her body. What if it holds the key to my future? What if this could be a chance to redefine my journey? The dawning idea ignited a flicker of courage. Daniel nodded softly, urging her almost telepathically to explore this potential. "Then you owe it to yourself to at least see what it is." Later that morning, Maria met Daniel at their usual café. As they settled at a corner table bathed in sunlight, he noteso ser un jolo vibrancy, a kind of fire, reflectendo seriner shift. "You seem different today," he remarked, stirring his coffee absent-mindedly. Maria smiled, anticipation curving her lips. "I made una decisión about the past." She hesitated, weighing her words. "I'm ready to let it lead me to where I need to go."
Daniel's eyebrow arched, curiosity piquing his interest. What does that mean? I responded to that message, she admitted, a thrill coursing through her. It might be una nova oportunidad, but it also means facing things I buried long ago. His eyes darkened slightly, though he kept his composure. That's a brave step. Do you feel ready for whatever comes next? I don't know if I can ever be fully ready, she confessed, her heart racing. But I can't keep running from it. It's time to confront my past head-on. Maria's words reached into the depths of her own uncertainty, illuminating a thread of courage she hadn't realized existed. The contrast between her old self and the woman she was becoming felt tangible, almost electric. With Daniel's presence, a soft foundation beneath her, Maria felt a stirring of confidence. They discussed her old contact, exploring the potential implications. Would this lead to dance opportunities she had once dreamed of? Or would it summon old ghosts that made her cringe? "Promise me something," Daniel said, leaning closer. "If at any point this feels too heavy, you'll stop. I want you to pursue your dreams, but not at the cost of your peace." His concern filled her with warmth and gratitude. She felt seen, not just as a dancer, but as a woman navigating a complex path. "Thank you, Daniel. I promise to listen to myself." With each passing moment, Maria shed layers of her insecurities, revealing the core of her ambition. The past was no longer a shadow lurking in her periphery. It was a part of her story, one she was now ready to embrace and transform. As they finished their coffee, Maria found herself filled with a newfound determination. The conversation had shifted something within her, forging a deeper connection with Daniel, a shared journey that promised to deepen with each step. But just as her mind settled into hopeful anticipation, her phone chimed. The message from her old contact had arrived. Maria's pulse quickened, the weight of possibility pressing against her chest once more. What lay behind the door she was about to open? Was it hope or a reckoning of regrets? The moment of truth was at hand. As the phone buzzed on the table, Maria's hand trembled slightly, the weight of uncertainty hanging in the air like an unsteady climber poised on the edge of a cliff. She could feel Daniel's gaze, a mixture of encouragement and concern, as she reached for her device. With a breath that caught in her chest, she tapped the screen to open the message. "Let's meet.
I think you should be in the next showcase." Those words leaped out at her, a siren call she never thought she would hear again. The showcase. The term awakened a sleeping ambition in her, sparking the fire she had long buried under months of routine and resilience. It was a solitary word that echoed with both promise and trepidation. Leaving the cafe, Maria stepped onto the sidewalk, each footfall reverberating with purpose. The city around her buzzed, a symphony composed of voices, cars, and distant music. Yet she felt locked in a bubble of her own creation, where every sound faded into the background. Her mind raced through the implications of the message. Would dancing at the showcase draw her back to the heights she had once reached, or plunge her into the pit of failure she had fought so hard to escape? As feelings of exhilaration clouded her judgment, she momentarily faltered. What about the scrutiny?
the eyes that mimicked the expectations of her former self, keeping score of her every misstep. She considered the night she had stepped off the stage after a dazzling performance, only to be met with crickets instead of applause. Would she risk tasting that bitterness again? Yet, as she continued down the street, the potential of that message ignited something deep within. Maria had shed her waitress skin, embracing the weight of her artistry. This wasn't only about the dance, it was an opportunity to return to the core of who she was. The showcase represented more than just an invitation. It was a challenge to confront her fears and critics, both past and present. Arriving home, she felt the inhale of safety, moving through the clutter of her apartment like a dancer navigating the stage. She circled her kitchen, the coffee pot still humming, and instinctively moved to clear the dishes. The mundane task felt oddly grounding amidst the chaos swirling in her veins. Each dish washed became a meditation, scrubbing away her insecurities, polishing her conviction. In moments of quiet, she flickered between trepidation and eagerness. Memories of her past stages began to weave into her thoughts, each one heavy with the weight of triumph alongside failure. It struck her how beautifully messily the two intertwined in her narrative. Without pain, the joy of victory would not shine as bright. The thought of Daniel nudged at her mind. She could almost hear his voice reminding her to be kind to herself. Her lips curled into a smile, conjuring the encouragement he offered as the sound of his soft laughter mingled with her resolve. She realized that this was not a solo performance. His presence would serve as her safety net should she falter. That evening, fueled by fresh resolve and the ambient glow of her kitchen, Maria began mapping out a plan. She would rehearse daily, diligently infusing each session with the vigor she once thought lost. No more avoidance, no more punishing comparisons. This journey would be about growth, not perfection.
A system. Throughout their rehearsal, Maria realized her growth was not just an individual pursuit. Daniel transformó her into more than un dreamer. He was her catalyst, reshaping sus fears into strength. Their partnership was a dance of its own, a balanced composition of support and challenge, willing to embrace the uncertain. Days melted into nights, and her rehearsals intensified. Each session propelled her further into confidence. She was no longer just performing, but living her art. She allowed the music to guide her past insecurities and envelop herself in her potential. On the edge of something monumental, every step she took fortified her resolve to embrace the showcase. When the day arrived, the atmosphere crackled with anticipation. As she stood backstage, the hushed murmurs of the audience filled her ears, threatening to tug her toward doubt. Yet with each breath, Maria envisioned Daniel's unwavering stance behind her, grounding her amidst the cacophony of expectations. This was her moment not just to dance, but to reclaim her voice. When her turn came, she stood in the spotlight, breathing in the warmth of the stage. This bright yoke was not merely an arena of scrutiny, but an opportunity to show herself as she truly was, a dancer, a dreamer, a creator. Echoes of her past failures served only as reminders of her resilience.
every step felt like a meaningful declaration. With every spin, she liberated herself from old definitions of who she was expected to be. As the final notes lingered in the air, applause erupted from the audience. Joy surged within her, a sweet crescendo mixing with satisfaction. She had not only shared her craft, but unveiled the depths of her soul on that stage, transforming vulnerability into strength. Returning backstage after the encore, Daniel met her with illuminating eyes, pride radiating from his smile. "You did it! You've captured their hearts, Maria. No wall could possibly contain your talent. You've conquered history." The exhilaration coursing through her was intoxicating, but so was the realization of her hard-fought journey. She was no longer afraid. Fulfilling her dreams was about claiming her narrative, vulnerability, and growth. As reminders of her past lingered in the light, so did the promise of a future defined on her own terms. With flickers of excitement coursing through her, Maria knew this was only the beginning of her journey, each step a beacon of authenticity, illuminating the path ahead where dreams awaited. Facing forward, she committed to nurturing her aspirations while learning from each twist in the fabric of her narrative. As both a dancer and dreamer, she had officially stepped into her power, ready to rewrite her story with unyielding grace. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that inspire individual transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. You need to show your support.
Comente baixo seus reações e teorias about Maria's journey. E não perca este tempo em compartilhar este vídeo com pelo menos 5 amigos que precisam ver esta incrível conclusão. Together, let's celebrate the beauty of personal overcoming stories.